the big things that are changed, like again, starting a business, moving, those, you don't look back. The bridge has been burnt. The smaller things, you probably need some accountability and systems to keep it afloat, keep it going. Because when times get difficult, you tend to dissipate. So I want to make sure that you know that you're not alone in that. So you need some systems in place. Hey, this is Darryl Lyons, CEO and co-founder of PAX Financial Group, and you're listening to Pivot with Darryl Lyons, where we'll talk about wealth and we'll talk about leadership and just life in general. Remember, this information is general in nature. It's not intended to provide specific investment, tax, or legal advice. Visit paxfinancialgroup.com for more information. Um, I'm working from my home office today because not ACL, I had a meniscus tear, and so I'm home recovering and doing fine. But at the house, so you get the background and the stories behind me. And I just want to reinforce the idea behind this podcast. It's my conviction that better money decisions happen in conversation. And so hopefully this is a beginning of a conversation that you might have with somebody else, maybe an advisor, maybe a friend, maybe a trusted confidant in some way to be able to really unpack some of these things. But I'll do my best over the next 15 or 20 minutes to kind of curate and launch that conversation. So what I want to talk about today is change. Um, there's a band in the 90s, the Candlebox. I don't know if you remember them. I love 90s alternative. So, but there's a song called Change. So every time I say change, I think of Candlebox. And the lead singer, his name's Kevin Martin. He says, "As I stand here, I ponder greater things." And I love that line, and to think about how today we get so busy scrolling and just the information age, everything at us, that we don't just stand there and ponder. Um, And when we stand there and ponder, we do something. We recognize that maybe here isn't as good as we thought it was, and we need to make a change. So that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to actually use John Kotter's leadership framework. He has a leadership model that businesses used. Kotter with a K, Kotter. Was introduced to it not long ago, but just digested it, looked at all the pros and cons of it. It's not a perfect model, but it's one that I wanted to use. It has eight steps or considerations, and I'm going to use that framework for our conversation today. But when it comes to change, this is just not about money. Money obviously is a part of this equation, of course, because there really isn't many changes that happen without some economic impact. That's just how life is. You could deny that all day, but there's almost always, an economic consideration. I uh, I did want to make sure that you could apply this both personally and professionally, though. So, I moved a lot growing up, so this could be applied to the way I approach moving. When I was born in Dallas, moved to Canton, moved to Somerset, moved to San Antonio, moved to Bernie, moved to Harlingen, moved to Castroville. So that's a little bit of change there, and kind of grow resilient with change. So you just kind of learn to roll with it. But even if I did become resilient to change to a certain degree, it doesn't mean that I'm good at teaching others how to be resilient as well, the people that I need to come alongside with me. So we moved from San Antonio to New Braunfels. That was a different kind of change. I was ready to move. That was easy, but I had a family of six that I had to convince the other five that it made sense. So there was change management there. So change has application in various facets. Sometimes it's individual, sometimes it's corporate, sometimes it's family. But any of this content today, I'm gonna express in a way that I think you can apply it any of those situations. So let's jump into it. The first one is creating urgency without panic. Bill Hybels, who's a pastor, he was a pastor, Willow Creek Church in Chicago. He had this presentation that he did, and he pointed to the ground with his left index finger and says, "Here is not good." When the ground, and he'd point out to the sky with his right hand or somewhere out into the east or west and say, "There is good." So with one hand, here is not good, there is good. And what he was trying to say is that that's what you've got to make sure it comes across clearly. His story that he used was the Exodus, the Israelites leaving Egypt and slavery, and that was pretty clear. Hey, here is not good. But sometimes it's important um, if you want to initiate change for you to be honest with yourself and saying here is not good. It does require just an honest inventory. Um, Sometimes we just cope, and at a certain point, we got to be honest with ourselves. Here is not good. And then we got to tell others, hey, here is not good. We can't panic. Got to be like adults, but we got to be honest. Here is not good. So that's the first thing is to just create that sense of urgency. The second thing is building a guiding coalition. Now, I found this to be something that is critically important both in business and in family. Like I said, when we moved from San Antonio to New Braunfels, needed a guiding coalition. I needed my wife to be able to get the kids on board, to be excited, to recognize that, hey, they may leave some friends behind. They're not really behind, but part of those conversations are hard. So, but she was a part of the guiding coalition. You have to create a guiding coalition in our work. Janice, she's president, chief operating officer, and she's often the guiding coalition. So when there's initiative of change, then she comes around and locks arms and ensures that we see that thing through. We also do this in financial advice, and that's why I keep reinforcing it's so important. Some clients who are just, old school, grumpy old Germans, you know who you are. I love you, but I do these little, I do these little card exercises where we unpack some pretty deep stuff, and not to go deep, but one of the things that we want to do is try to get the spouse, the husband and wife on the same page. Because if we can create this guiding coalition, we can almost always get better outcomes. And so the guiding coalition between a husband and wife is really powerful. And so that's part of our investment thesis is to be able to do that well and try to cultivate that because we know we can do great things if we've got a guiding coalition, not a fragmented one. The third thing that Cotter points out is communicating the vision clearly. Um, so again, high bulls pointed to the ground. Here is not good with the left index finger, and out to the east or west is the there is good. That's where we're going. I don't think you have it all figured out. I'm not a history buff by any means, but I've read enough over the years about and studied and watched and had just lots of conversations about history. And it's interesting, whether it's Vietnam or Iraq or even today's Iran war, there's typically a vision. And oftentimes um, it's somewhat, you know, vague, but the process is just never easy to get to that vision. Sometimes it takes many, many, many years, sometimes decades. Um, so I say that because you can have a vision of what life could be, but it doesn't have to be perfect. And so I think that sometimes causes a lot of people hesitation because they feel like they have to have it all dialed in, that vision. You do not. Um, have to have it directionally understood. You'll figure it out as you go. And I think the people that are making a difference, that are moving mountains, so to speak, are those people that are comfortable not knowing everything, but knowing that we want to be over there in some capacity. So, yeah, if you just I go back to the moving of a family, sometimes you're like, you're going to meet kids, you're going to meet some new friends. Um, and you're just crossing your fingers as a parent that they do. So it's that kind of thing. And even in leadership and money and life, there's just this idea that there is a vision, but it's okay if it's not all mapped out. But I think you do need to have it defined to a degree that you can inspire others and encourage others to be able to go through the discomfort, which is what we're going to talk about next. Number four is manage the responses to change because people are going to get uncomfortable in the journey. And oftentimes they're going to get emotional. Sometimes these emotional responses, Simon Sinek talks about this. If they're 1 to 10, 10 being, just off the charts emotional, one being, not emotional. If it's above a five, it's not about the thing. It's not about the change. It's not about the disruption. It's about something else. So in other words, if somebody's getting hyper, if they open the refrigerator door and the milk falls out and maybe it spills a little bit and they just throw a fit, it's not about the milk. There's something else going on there. So make sure that you can be the adult in the room and listen, respond, and not react because people will have various degrees of emotions and they may express it as that they're troubled with the change, but there might be something else going on underneath that. The last thing you want to do is make decisions like change your course of action based on their emotions and that may not be based on that task. Like I said, it might be something else. So it's important that you manage those emotions, and that's an important part of this process, and to respond thoughtfully by listening and not reacting. Uh, the next one, number five, is removing obstacles or friction. There's going to be stuff in the way. You don't know what those things are. Um, Ben Hardy talks about hiring somebody called a super who. This would be who can help me? That's kind of what you think, like who can help me get through these obstacles. That may be a coach, that could be a financial advisor, that could be your spouse. We have, people on our team that are super who's, people that can, they may not be the ones that want to cast the vision or initiate change, but they're like, hey, I can, if you tell me kind of where we're going and I see obstacles, I can be the person that can help you get through those obstacles. So sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's not the person casting the vision. And if it's not, just maybe you need to bring some of the people in that can help you navigate the obstacles. I mean, it may be you, but just know there's going to be obstacles. You don't know, always know what those are going to look like. I think you just have to be real that it's not always smooth to get from here to there. Number six is something I'm good at in an individual context, but in a corporate setting, I have to get better at for sure. And that's creating early wins. In fact, many times when I was a financial advisor, um, in a lot of early relationships, some of my clients remember this, some won't, but I would always try to create early wins. I always felt like having early wins was just a really good way to build confidence that would last a long time. And sometimes it would just be simply, finding, there'd be times where I'd find stuff in their bank account that are reoccurring expenses that they didn't know about. That was deep. Those were deep financial planning things. But trying to give you examples real time, and I can't think of a bunch of them. But my main point is that when I was engaging with clients, I would try to find early wins because I knew the power of early wins. So does Dave Ramsey. That's why he does the debt snowball. The math doesn't always make sense with debt snowball. But the early wins is the traction that you need to go from one step to another and to get the momentum. It's very real. Now, when you're working with a group of people, it's one thing to be able to, for me to lay down my head on the pillow at night and think about all the wins um, and give myself a pat on the back while I'm in bed. It's another thing to go to my team and say, hey, I just want to just share these early wins with you guys. That's something I need to work on, but it is again, change management is different because it looks different in different capacities. But when you work with a team, trying to be able to share those early wins and continuing to share those wins, I think is really, really important. Um, Number seven, keeping your people engaged. So along with those early wins, I think you need to be the chief reminding officer. Um, One of the things, again, I'm kind of going back to all my mistakes that I've learned over the years. I would have this vision of where we wanted to go as a business, and I would get everyone in a room, um, put together a PowerPoint, try to overcome objections, listen to them, sit in the room for a couple hours, and then like left, and everyone, like in my mind, everyone got it. We're all on the same page. Let's go. Then I'd realize that nobody heard anything I said. Uh, they might have been paying attention to my body language. They might have been hungry. They might have had something that their kid did last night that they were thinking about, but they weren't listening to me. And so but then the youth in me would get frustrated. Like, I told you this. Like, how did you not grasp it? I would even tell them twice, like, how do you not get this? This is where we're going. These are the problems. This is why we're doing it. Why do I have to keep telling you? Well, it's normal. It is normal to be the chief reminding officer, and it's okay. I think it's weak leadership to say, hey, I yelled it loud enough and everyone heard me. I think that's weak. I think you just have the responsibility to keep people engaged. And the eighth one from Kotter's work is making the change stick. Now, if you're moving houses, that's going to stick. If you're changing CRMs and businesses, that's going to stick. The stuff that may be harder to stick is like going to bed without your phone in your hand, maybe setting aside or maybe reading a book a month or some of these other things, maybe working out, those types of change things, making those stick. Uh, that's a little harder. And again, there's a lot of science and a lot of thoughts behind how to do this well. I think accountability is a big part of that. Um, there's lots of new apps. In fact, I have some habits. I'm always trying to course correct, my life and little nudges to do things where I'm at in life and age and everything. And so I just programmed Copilot to be a chief of staff for me. So every morning I give it an executive summary of my previous day and it rates me. And so I just it's real easy to program. When I say I program something, it's AI. It's easy. But but my point is that um, the big things that are changed, like again, starting a business, moving, those, you don't look back. The bridge has been burnt. The smaller things, you probably need some accountability and systems to keep it afloat, keep it going. Because when times get difficult, you tend to dissipate. So I want to make sure that you know that you're not alone in that. So you need some systems in place. So those are the eight Kotter frameworks for change. Some of them will resonate with you, some of them might, but just know being good at change is a skill that I think is worth leaning into, and constantly taking inventory of how good you are at this is healthy. Candlebox said, well, Kevin Martin of Candlebox, again, I'm going to quote him. He said, I said, I feel so alive now. And I feel that a change is going to come. He said, I feel so alive now. And I feel that a change is going to come. So despite the uncomfortableness of change, it is life. It's a part of life. Makes life fun, makes us trust God more, and keeps us all alive. Hey, thanks for listening today. Remember, you think different when you think long term. Have a great day.